Okay, there we go. Should be recording. Okay. So basically, what y'all had was you guys were running hazard comp, and what you guys had was you had your hazard here. Actually, pretty much everybody was here except for your tracer, which was on cart, which was really good. The whole, pretty much this whole map, you want tracer on cart anyway, so this is really good. And then you had like Lucio, and then you had like Genji. So these are also on this. These are all here, around here. And you have tracer on cart. So does anybody here know how hazard comp is supposed to function? I also draw their stuff as well. They had like Diva over here. They had Kiri,
It's
Lifeweaver.
rush. It's literally just rush comp.
Um,
I mean, I guess we engage with hazard splashes.
right. It's mostly like yes, it's more rush than it is like regular dive with like monkey or like ball or something like that. But the reason that it's different is there's usually like a little bit more it's like a little bit more sustained because Hazard has like the block and he has the like the ice wall as well. That's the main difference, at least when you're running double flex support, like double dive. And then they had May. So in this case, you guys are pretty much running dive because you have these characters. And then has a little bit more survivability, but if you play it more brawly into what they had, I think they had like Soj over here. But anyway, so looking at these comps, this is kind of what y'all struggled with. Who is like the target on their team? And also, let's say like the cart is here, and you have your tracer here. So let me just put this in here. So you have a tracer on your cart. This is good. So, can somebody tell me what the next like play event is that happens here?
Just poke.
Right.
Fight. They're on Devo. May. Jace push cards for free.
Right.
We can soft dive and shit, but like I doubt we're killing you.
Right. Right.
I mean,
So
how you play Jib is you let cart go bottom, they're forced to drop, and then you rotate take high.
exactly. So the main goal and the main thing that y'all were struggling with is you guys were basically trying to wrap this route, all four of you, and then Genji was like kind of just like in the air on this wall area, which is like fine, but a thing that you guys like, this route, we don't want this route because we're playing more divey, and all this does is play into their more, it just plays into their May, and it doesn't like let us like take any kind of good angles or any kind of high ground. Like, yes, we don't want to take over this like whole high ground just by like fighting. We want to take high ground because cart moved to this like lower portion over here. But the only way that's going to happen is if you force them to drop here. So by playing in this room, we're not accomplishing anything. If we take this room, they can just contest our tracer on cart like for free, and we can't really do anything about it. And you all were just in this room, and we have to like maybe put like a Kiri on the outside and gets pokes from the Sojourn that they had set up. Or this Lifer or this Kiri. Maybe not Kiri because she's keeping Deep alive, but generally, if we wanted to attack this normally, yes, we just play for this tracer cart because we don't really care about like winning a fight here. The fight happens once this cart gets here, and they are forced to drop before it caps, which is a threat y'all had really well by putting this tracer on cart. They like really had a struggle with that, but in general, you want to look for this across. Like like I said, the way that you guys were playing this was pretty much like dive. So in dive as well, like we don't want this room, right? We don't want to be in a cramped room. We want to take angles that like help us like establish these high grounds, so that like they have to be like way back along here, and like maybe Diva like on this bottom corner, and then we control high ground, and their treasure can keep pushing cart. Because that way, do you guys know like why I'm saying that for this next part of the map? Or actually, just before that, I guess is all of this like clear? Does this make sense to you guys? So like generally,
Yeah.
rather than all of us just running in this room that we don't really care about, or even this like high ground that we don't necessarily care about, but we don't want them here either. What you should have is your Kiri here. Like you guys can poke this. This is great. I'd prefer if your Lucio and Genji came up the stairs and wrapped here, so we're hitting them from multiple angles. And meanwhile, Tracer's just pushing cart. Again, we're not really looking for a fight on this map. We're just looking to push cart. But we still want to force them off of height, because if we leave them on height, they're just going to contest cart, and it's just going to be a giant mess, which is what it ends up happening. But in general, this is on multiple maps as well that I've seen you guys play dive. We need to make sure that we're like developing this angle before we dive. So remember we talked about fundamentals of, remember that tank usually, or like 99% of the time tank goes first, the only other 1% being when Tracer has pulse bomb maybe, or if you're just like doing a soft dive. So these are kinds of things you guys should think about, just taking these like side angles and not really revealing yourself until your tank full engages, and then you help like follow up. This whole developing the angle thing, you don't need to like fight for this angle. If you feel yourself fighting for an angle, the only other time it's going to happen is if you have like Lucio and like Tracer, and you guys are like 2v2ing, which is fine. But in general, you don't really want to fight for your angle. So if you're getting pushback here and they're looking at you, then you're doing your job, but you don't want to be taking a whole lot of damage, because in reality you're waiting for the full engage from your tank. And that's something you guys can work on pretty much for every map as well, I've been noticing. So kind of be aware of that as well. But any questions so far before I move on to like the second portion of this? Back over here.
No.
Okay. Wish this wasn't in spec, but it's fine. So, try to get a good angle here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Alright, so on this portion, cart will be somewhere right here, and they'll force someone to drop. Ideally, it's their Tracer, but likely won't be. Where do you guys think you should... Well, so we have, say we're running the Hazard, Genji, Tracer, Lucio, Kiri. Where do you guys think you should be?
Blue box.
Like,
blue box,
up
yeah.
here?
Yeah, that's blue box.
So you're up here. Who else?
I'm trying to be up there too.
I mean, it also depends where their backline is.
So like Genji and Haz.
Genji, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
Depends
they
where their
had
backline is. But most of the time it's gonna be right there because they're gonna be
they had
like
Life
that.
Weaver here, like Kiri over here, Sojourn up here as well, and then they had like Diva and Cart. And then who else was it? It was May. May was also like with Diva. This is more or less what they had. It changed obviously because y'all were like fighting a lot. What ended up happening is pretty much you guys did force them to drop like the life weaver ended up contesting card, which is really really good for us. But then we bursted out of this room and they kind of just like poked at us, and while we took like this 4v4, it was really really bad for us because we're just huddled in this room. But generally, yeah. So we want our Hazard here, or Genji here, so we can do this dive on this high ground. And another thing too is into their comp. One thing you guys really kind of struggled with. Obviously, a lot of these characters have very like defensive capabilities. You know, Life Weaver, you have Akiri, you have Mei, Diva. The only person like Slide, yes, but the reason that Soj is different is like Soj here is the correct target, and can anybody like figure out why or tell me why that is?
You ain't killing a Mei if you dive. You ain't killing anything else. She's the only one you might be able to kill.
True.
Even then, you need to get up full
Yes.
and slide.
Another reason that you can think about it as is what about like their comp is different from our comp, other than just like defensive?
Their poke. So just the only poke, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So they're trying to play to poke us out, and we're trying to pretty much go all in here. So it's our comp is pretty much we need to absolutely, you know, kill this target or at least establish enough like angles or enough like pressure to where they can't play their angles, and the only way they're going to be able to do that is pretty much through this high ground or maybe server room technically, but that's why we want to look at Soj in this comp. So this is kind of a thing as well of thinking like when you're playing, think about like what way does your comp win versus what way does their comp win. So the way their comp wins is exactly what happened on second point. Is you guys bait out a cooldown here, and then you baited out a cooldown here, and then you baited out a cooldown here, but then nothing dies. You guys demech this diva like almost every fight, but it's really hard to get value out of that when they can just cleanse, pull, you know, just cryo and all this other stuff, and that's not even mentioning the ultimates. So, again here, make sure we're developing this angle with like Genji. You could have like Tracer here as well. Okay, and then or not. That's wrong. Sorry. I want Tracer cart always, pretty much always on this map. And then where do you guys think your Lucio and Kiri should be?
I mean, they can be with us now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Alternatively, you can have Haz sitting here, and you can have like Lucio and Genji just like climb up over here, or you could have Kiri on this long angle, just like adding some damage long range. You could also have you know, Genji Lucio can also wrap up these stairs and take this angle over here, or this angle as well. This wouldn't be as great though, because it's a really long rotate. But pretty much just anywhere you have like access to follow up on the Haz that isn't like the same angle. So that's the thing I want you guys to start thinking about in your future scrims is what angles do we have on the enemy team? Because if you only have one, it's going to be really, really hard to like play a majority comps unless you're literally just playing like Brawl.
Damn.
So those some kind of things to think about for this.
The basketball one is always good.
Any questions or anything like that? Okay. Um, so yeah, something like this, as well as just one other thing I want to talk about. For second point, fuck me. So you guys ended up getting possession of high ground, really, really good, strong presence up here. So you had your Haz, you had your Kiri, Genji Trey, and then you had your Lucian Cart, which was like down back here, something like that. So for a question of you guys, how do you usually determine who's on cart? Hello, hello.
I'm here. I felt like I was answering a lot of them, so
Oh, fair enough.
be quiet and let other people answer.
Fair enough.
What was the question again?
And also, it's different person to person too. So
How do you guys usually determine whether like who goes on cart? What's like the best indicator of that? Or what's like the thought process you have when you're choosing who goes on
Um,
cart?
I mean, someone with mobility, so if they get challenged, they'll be okay.
Right, right. Yeah, good answer.
Um, and also probably, I mean, like a low damage dealer like Lucio. I mean, I don't know.
No, you definitely have some good points there. It's not necessarily about the damage here. The biggest thing, there's a couple things, right? So like number one, uh we have like map geometry. So here when you guys are holding this ship on high ground, do you guys think, well, like let's just like ignore ults for now. Do you think it's better to have Lucio on cart or like Tracer on cart or like Genji on cart? Any takers?
Uh,
So generally it depends on the map obviously, but here we are playing to establish angles, right? So we kind of really need this high ground to keep them in their spawn. And the way we want to do that, obviously, is by like keeping this high ground and also like preventing them from taking our high ground. So in this case, it's actually probably better to have Tracer here and have Lucio over here. In this way, because for a couple reasons as well. So Lucio is very good at he could just like boot people off for free on a very low cooldown as well. The only way they're gonna get this high ground control is their diva has to fly up and then like their sojourn has to slide or something like that, or curious to TP. Basically, the only way they get this high ground is if diva takes it. So if diva's trying to get this high ground, all we can do is just put Lucio towards the edge and you can just boop her off every time, and we get to have our angles and we just get to like spam their spawn choke. The other thing as well is if we put our own Tracer on cart, ideally what happens with a better team is they're also going to send their Tracer cart. So who wins the Lucio versus Tracer?
Treasure.
Yes. So this is where it like depends on the map. So like map geometry here, it's like we want to control this high ground, and then second of all, we have like the matchup, because Tracer wins over Lucio. So we need to think about this as well. Like, yes, Lucio can probably escape, but if Lucio is escaping and dealing with Tracer, and we're doing our play over here, and we're not making any card progress, then there's no point in making this play. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something in general to think about as well. Another one, like, or another kind of like good example is like Eichenwald. So you guys, you usually have that. You guys capture first point, and then you go height to castle as well. Do you guys think you should have Lucio or Tracer up there?
On Eichenwald.
Yeah. So let's say we go. Like I said, we take first point, and then we want to take space. So we go to castle. We go up to that top floor, on that little like square. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So if we're up there, do you guys think we want Lucio or Tracer on cart?
Depends if Lucio has beat.
Yes.
'Cause-
Yeah. So that's the third thing. So ults. So when this was happening, and I'm not entirely sure that you guys did it on purpose, but it's great if you did. Your Tracer actually had Pulse Bomb here, which is why this was like actually really good. That's another thing to watch out for. If you guys are playing for like a Pulse Bomb play, or just kind of if you guys are expecting to beat, then it's like, then that also influences it. So these are your kind of like three main things that you want to look at. But in general, in Eichenwald, the reason I'd say that we want Lucian cart versus Tracer is this map here that you're seeing right now. It's really hard for Lucio to just climb up to where everybody is in the middle of a fight, versus on Eichenwald, it's just like one straight direct wall that's very easy to get up to. The difference as well is like excuse me. On this map, like, this high ground is very strong. This pretty much decides the entire second portion of this map. So the thing about this is kind of like back towards map geometry, right? So there's no like any kind of railings or anything like that here. And there's also not a whole lot of ways up this unless you like come up these boxes. Everything else has to be pretty much a movement ability. It's not the same for Eichenwald. Eichenwald, there's ramps, there's stairs from multiple angles and things like that. So here, obviously, a Lucio sitting up top is a lot more valuable versus on Eichenwald, where it's, it's very locked down. There's a lot of walls and a lot of ways to come up. It's probably better to just have Tracer for damage, because there's a lot less value from Boop that we get. So that's something to just think about as well. Yeah, any questions so far about anything?
Nope.
Okay. So the last thing, this is just generally, I guess, kind of how Rush works. I think y'all did a mostly pretty good job of it, but I know it's kind of been a struggle in the past and things like that. So, do you guys generally think about like cooldown economy when you're playing the game? So, like, let's say these are you guys' cooldowns. Fight isn't started. You have all of our cooldowns. Everything's great. Same for them. They have all their cooldowns. And this is 5v5. Right? So generally, when you're playing something like Rush Comp, for example, actually it's more especially in Rush Comp, but it kind of works for really any comp you're playing. You need to pace yourselves. This is where you kind of get into tempo. You have to pace yourself with what cooldowns you have. So, for example, we're playing Rush. We get a pick. But we use shout, we use speed, we use carry TP because we flip map, we use, I don't know, Soj slide. We use a lot of cooldowns. So now we're here, and this all happens in the span of about, let's just say, like 10 seconds. So right now our resource pool is here. We get this pick pretty early. Because we get this pick early, the other team has not really used that many resources. You know, maybe they like dropped a Suzer or something like that to try and save them, but it wasn't enough. So now what happens is you guys have to like slow down the pace because your cooldowns are actually like at a disadvantage here. If all of these guys are more or less at full health still and they have all of their cooldowns, it's in your best interest to just play cover and just like chill out for like a little bit longer, like 5 seconds or so, 3 to 5 seconds, and wait for some of your abilities to come back so that by the time you guys take this already won fight, by the way, this is really important. After you guys get this pick, you guys should win this fight without obviously factoring like ultimates and things like that. But even with ultimates, if you guys just have more numbers, you should just be winning the fight. So the way you secure this is not by just like continuing to go for more kills, because again, remember, they have more cooldowns than you. So it's like, why risk it? The respawn timer is like 10 seconds, sometimes more. And then they also have to like walk all the way back. Yes, some characters faster than others, but maximum it's going to be like 20 whole seconds. So there's nothing wrong with taking 3 to 5 seconds to get all of these back and then just finishing the fight when it's like even resources. So that's something to watch out for when you guys are playing things like rush comp, brawl, or really just any comp. I kind of noticed that throughout. Be careful of your tempo and your pacing, because here as well, on this map, you'll kind of notice that their comp is more, like Soy said, our poke is, their comp was more pokey than our comp, which was full dive. Our dive comp heavily relies on our resources. If we don't have resources, it's very, very hard for us to go in. In fact, we just like kind of can't go in at all. Versus their comp is not very resource dependent because they're playing poke. Like the characters just do what they naturally do with or without cooldowns, or their cooldowns are like supplementary to helping them poke, but not necessary. So this is kind of something you guys should think about when you're playing, of being like, okay, this is good, we got the pick, now we're up in this fight. The next step is to not just like into their whole team because we're up. The next step is to make sure that we have enough cooldowns to like finish off this fight. Another thing that you can tie into this as well is sometimes this will happen and these 4 people will like back up. When that happens, you can just establish like point presence, and you don't have to do anything here. If they're already backing up and they're giving like point, just take point and then just set up for the next fight, like in a choke or something like that. Like sure, killing them would be great, but our main goal is not to kill the enemy team. Our main goal is to get objective progress. So you just, like I said before, you stick your Lucio, your Tracer, depending on what the situation is, just on the point. You cap point, and then you just get ready for the next attack. That was just something I noticed across like multiple scrims. But other than that, I didn't really have too much. I'll see next week if I do a VOD or something. Saturday, I'm planning on having you guys do 3-8 scrim. I guess I can stop the recording now. Actually, does anyone have any questions before I stop the recording?
I'm good.
Okay, cool.